We're continuing with operations with complex numbers. In this video, we're going to learn how to simplify powers of imaginary numbers. So instead of I or I squared, you might have I to a higher exponent. A strategy for doing this is you're going to divide the power of I by 4. So if you have like I to the 28th, you'll divide 28 by 4. And then you're going to want to see what remainder you get. The remainder is important here in rewriting the problem or making it smaller, which makes it easier to work with. So once you divide the power of I by 4, you're going to raise I to the power of the remainder and evaluate. If you have a remainder of 1, you'll rewrite it as I to the first power. Remainder of 2 would be I squared. Remainder of 3 would be I cubed. If your remainder is 0, you're going to write it as I to the 4th power. And all of these are actually easy to memorize, but I'm going to show you in this video where these answers come from. So here, let's start with I to the 33. So I'm going to take 33 and divide it by 4. That gives me 8, because 4 times 8 is 32. So here, our remainder is 1. So since our remainder is 1, I can rewrite this as I to the first power. So we're using our remainder to help rewrite it. And well, I to the first power is just the same as I, because the I can be imaginary. So I to the 33 is the same as I. And remember, we learned previously that I represents square root of -1. Now let's try this method with I to the 26. I'm going to take 26 and divide it by 4. That gives me 6. 6 times 4 is 24. So here, my remainder is 2. So since my remainder is 2, I can rewrite this as I squared. And we learned previously that I squared is actually equal to -1. So I to the 26th power can be simplified to -1. Let's try I to the 39th power. So if I do 39 divided by 4, I get 9. 9 times 4 is 36. So here my remainder is 3. So I can rewrite I to the 39th as I to the 3rd power, or I cubed. Now, here, this cannot equal just I or -1. We're going to need to expand it a little bit. So what I cubed means is you have 3 i's, like I times I times I. So you can actually rewrite this as I squared with an extra I. We know that I squared is -1. So for I squared, I'm going to plug in -1. And I, we just leave alone. So now if I were to work this out, -1 times I is -I. So if you have I cubed, it's going to equal -I. You can work it out the long way like I just did. Or if you memorize that I cubed is -I, you'll have your answer. Next, we're going to do I to the 20th. So I'm going to take 20 and divide that by 4. That comes out to 5. Here we have a remainder of 0. If your remainder is 0, you're going to rewrite it as I to the 4th power. So not I to the 0, I to the 4th. I to the 4th is actually I to times itself 4 times. So I times I times I times I. You can actually make this into 2 groupings of I squared, because we know I times I is I squared. So this becomes I squared times I squared. And we learned that I squared is -1. So -1 times -1 becomes +1. So again, you can do this a long way. For I4, you get +1. But you can also remember from now on that if you have I to the 4th, your answer is going to be a +1.